When we hear the name Einstein, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's a wild shock of white hair. It's the iconic image of a genius standing before a chalkboard filled with cryptic equations. We think of E equals mc squared, the theory of relativity, and the very fabric of space-time being warped by gravity. These are the colossal ideas that reshaped our understanding of the universe. They are the intellectual mountains he climbed, giving us a new vista from which to view all of existence. We see him as a titan of pure thought, a mind that journeyed to the farthest reaches of the cosmos without ever leaving his study. It's a powerful and deserving image, but it's not the complete picture. Hidden behind this monumental legacy of theoretical physics is another Einstein. This was a man deeply engaged with the practical world around him. He was a tinkerer, an inventor, a problem solver who loved to get his hands dirty, at least intellectually. While his mind was wrestling with the deepest cosmic mysteries, it was also grappling with everyday problems. How can we make our homes safer? How can we capture a better photograph? How can we help a friend hear the world more clearly? These questions sparked a different kind of creativity in him, one that led him from the abstract realm of thought experiments to the tangible world of patents and prototypes. This was the Einstein who saw science not just as a way to understand the universe, but also as a tool to improve the human experience within it. This journey into Einstein's workshop reveals a fascinating side of his genius. It shows us that the same curiosity that drove him to question the nature of light and time also compelled him to design a better refrigerator. He held over 50 patents for his inventions, a fact that often gets lost in the shadow of his Nobel Prize. These weren't just idle doodles. They were serious attempts to solve real-world challenges using elegant scientific principles. It's a story that connects the grandest theories of physics with the humble objects of our daily lives, showing that innovation doesn't always happen on a chalkboard. Sometimes it begins with a newspaper headline and the desire to prevent a tragedy. So, let's pull back the curtain on this lesser-known chapter of his life. We'll travel back in time, not to the birth of the universe, but to the workshops and patent offices of the early 20th century. We will explore the blueprints of a man who could simultaneously contemplate the geometry of the cosmos and the mechanics of a household appliance. This exploration isn't just a quirky historical footnote. It's a testament to the idea that a truly great mind sees no boundary between the theoretical and the practical. It's all part of the same magnificent quest for knowledge and improvement, a quest that defined Albert Einstein's entire existence. Our story begins not in a pristine laboratory, but with a tragic news story from 1926 Berlin. Einstein, already a world-famous scientist, read about a family that had died in their sleep. The culprit was their refrigerator. In those days, refrigerators were a new and exciting technology, but they came with a hidden danger. They used toxic gases like ammonia, sulfur dioxide, or methyl chloride as refrigerants. If a seal broke or a pipe leaked, these poisonous fumes could silently fill a home with deadly consequences. This story deeply affected Einstein. The idea that a modern convenience designed to improve life could so easily take it away struck him as a profound failure of engineering. He believed science could do better. This humanitarian impulse sparked a remarkable collaboration. Einstein reached out to his friend and former student, the brilliant Hungarian physicist Leo Szilard. Together, they set out to design a refrigerator that was fundamentally safe. Their goal was ambitious: to create a cooling system with no moving parts, a machine with no seals to break, no gaskets to wear out, and therefore, no possibility of a deadly leak. This was a challenge that required them to rethink the very principles of refrigeration from the ground up. They weren't just trying to patch a problem, they were aiming to invent a completely new and inherently safer technology to protect families. The design they conceived was a marvel of ingenuity, a type of absorption refrigerator unlike any other. It used a clever combination of gases and a liquid metal. A small amount of butane was the refrigerant, the substance that actually did the cooling. But the real genius was in how they moved it through the system. Instead of a mechanical compressor, the noisy, leak-prone heart of a conventional fridge, they designed an electromagnetic pump. This pump had no pistons or rotating shafts. It was a silent, sealed system that used a magnetic field to push a liquid metal alloy, which in turn would move the refrigerant gases through their cycle of compression and expansion. This concept was pure elegance. It took the principles of electromagnetism, a field Einstein knew intimately, and applied them to a household problem. The entire machine would be a closed loop, a self-contained universe of cooling where nothing could escape. It was a perfect example of Einstein's ability to see the connection between a grand physical law and a practical life-saving application. He and Szilard weren't just building a better appliance, they were crafting a solution born from compassion and guided by the fundamental forces of nature. Their work was a direct response to a human need, a powerful reminder that the greatest scientific minds are often driven by the simplest of motivations, to help others. Building the prototype of the Einstein-Szilard refrigerator was one thing, making it work was another. The core of their invention, the electromagnetic pump, was a testament to their combined genius. It used an alternating current to create a shifting magnetic field. This field acted upon a potassium-sodium alloy, a metal that is liquid at room temperature. This liquid metal acted like a fluid piston, pushing and pulling the ammonia and butane gases through the cooling cycle. It was a beautiful, seamless process in theory. There were no mechanical parts to grind against each other, no seals that could degrade over time. It was the embodiment of their goal, a perfectly sealed, leak-proof system. However, when they finally built and tested their creation, they encountered an unexpected problem. The refrigerator worked. It produced cold, just as they had designed it to. But it was anything but silent. The complex interplay of the magnetic fields and the sloshing liquid metal created an incredible amount of noise. One observer famously described the sound of the prototype as howling like a jackal. It was a constant, piercing noise that would have been unbearable in any kitchen. The silent symphony they had imagined in their minds turned out to be a cacophony in reality. The elegance of the physics had not translated into the quiet convenience required of a home appliance. This auditory flaw was a significant barrier, but it wasn't the only reason their invention never made it to market. While Einstein and Szilard were perfecting their intricate device, the world of chemistry was moving in a different direction. An American chemist named Thomas Midgley Jr. discovered a new class of synthetic refrigerants called chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, famously marketed under the brand name Freon. Freon was non-toxic, non-flammable, and seemed like a miracle substance. It solved the safety problem of early refrigerators in a much simpler and cheaper way. Manufacturers could keep using their existing mechanical compressor designs. They just had to swap out the toxic gas for the new, safe one. The arrival of Freon effectively made the Einstein-Szilard refrigerator obsolete before it could even be perfected. Why build a complex, noisy, and likely expensive machine when a simple chemical solution was readily available? The market chose the path of least resistance, and so, the patents were sold, and the howling prototype was relegated to the footnotes of history. It was a classic tale of innovation being outpaced by a competing technology. But the story doesn't end there. The elegant design of their electromagnetic pump, while unsuited for a kitchen, would find a new and much more critical purpose decades later, in a place where reliability and a leak-proof seal were matters of life and death: cooling nuclear reactors. Einstein's inventive spirit didn't stop with refrigeration. His mind was always at play with the fundamental forces of nature, and he constantly sought new ways to apply them. In 1936, he turned his attention to photography. Working alongside the German-American radiologist Gustav Bucke, Einstein co-patented a design for a light-intensity self-adjusting camera. This was a truly forward-thinking idea for its time. He wasn't just thinking about lenses and shutters, he was thinking about how a camera could intelligently respond to its environment. He wanted to build a camera that could see, measure, and think for itself, ensuring a perfect picture every time. The science behind this invention was deeply personal for Einstein. The mechanism he proposed was based on the photoelectric effect, the very discovery that had won him the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. The photoelectric effect describes how light, when it strikes certain materials, can knock electrons loose and create an electric current. Einstein envisioned using a photoelectric cell, a primitive light sensor, as the camera's eye. This cell would measure the intensity of the light coming into the lens. The more light, the stronger the electrical signal it would produce. This was a brilliant way to quantify the brightness of a scene. The next step was to connect this measurement to the camera's exposure settings. Einstein and Bucky's patent described a clever system where the electrical current from the photoelectric cell would control a variable screen. This screen, made of polarizing filters or a similar material, would sit between the lens and the film. If the light was too bright, the current would cause the screen to darken, reducing the amount of light hitting the film and preventing overexposure. If the light was too dim, the screen would become more transparent, letting more light through. It was, in essence, an automatic exposure system, a concept that was decades ahead of its time. It's unclear if a working prototype of this camera was ever built. The patent exists as a blueprint of their vision, a glimpse into a future of automated photography. At the time, photographers had to rely on separate light meters, complex calculations, and a great deal of experience to get the exposure right. Einstein's idea was to build that expertise directly into the machine itself. While the first commercially successful automatic camera, the Kodak Super 620, would appear shortly after their patent, Einstein's design stands as a remarkable piece of conceptual engineering. It demonstrates his unique ability to bridge the gap between his most profound theoretical work and a tangible, practical device designed to empower human creativity. Einstein's inventions were often born from a place of deep empathy, and none more so than his work on a hearing aid. The inspiration, came from a friend, the singer Olga Eisner, who was struggling with hearing loss. Seeing her difficulty connecting with the world of sound, Einstein was really moved to find a solution. Around 1928, he began sketching ideas with an engineer named Rudolf Goldschmidt. They weren't content to simply amplify sound. Instead, they wanted to find a new way to transmit auditory information directly to the brain, bypassing the damaged parts of the ear. It was a deeply personal project, aimed at restoring a fundamental human sense for someone he cared about. Their design, which was eventually patented in 1934, was for an electromagnetic sound reproduction apparatus. It was a radical departure from the simple ear trumpets or early carbon-based amplifiers of the day. Instead, it relied on a fascinating physical principle known as magnetostriction. This is the property of certain metals, like iron or nickel, to change their shape and size slightly when exposed to a magnetic field. Einstein imagined a device that would convert the electrical signals from a microphone into a rapidly changing magnetic field. This field would then cause a small metal rod to vibrate minutely. The idea was to have this vibrating rod gently touch the bones of the skull, likely near the mastoid bone just behind the ear. These tiny, precise vibrations would travel through the bone directly to the inner ear, a process known as bone conduction. In theory, this could allow someone with certain types of hearing loss to perceive sound. The device was an attempt to create a more direct and intimate connection between the electrical world of the device and the biological world of the user. It was another example of Einstein applying his profound knowledge of electromagnetism to solve a distinctly human problem, transforming abstract physics into a potential source of healing. Like many of his other inventions, the electromagnetic hearing aid never made it to the marketplace. The technology of the time was rapidly evolving in a different direction. The development of smaller, more efficient electronic vacuum tube amplifiers provided a much more practical and powerful way to boost sound. These new electronic hearing aids became the dominant technology, offering greater amplification and control. Einstein's magnetostrictive device, while scientifically elegant, was simply outmaneuvered by a more straightforward electronic solution. Yet, the concept of bone conduction that he explored remains a vital part of modern audiology, used today in advanced hearing aids and communication systems for specific medical and tactical applications. Perhaps the most surprising and enigmatic of all of Albert Einstein's patents is one that, honestly, has nothing to do with physics, electromagnetism, or thermodynamics. In 1936, the same year he patented his self-adjusting camera, Einstein also filed a patent for a design for a blouse. This entry in his inventive portfolio stands out as a delightful anomaly, a puzzle that historians and admirers have pondered ever since. The patent describes a garment with a unique construction. It featured side openings that doubled as armholes and a distinct back panel that extended from the yoke, the part across the shoulders, down to the waistband. It was a specific and unusual design for an article of clothing. The motivation behind this foray into fashion is, well, completely unknown, which only adds to its mystique. There are no letters or journal entries that explain why the world's most famous physicist suddenly decided to become a clothing designer. Was it a favor for his wife, Elsa, or maybe another friend? Was it a playful intellectual exercise, an attempt to apply principles of geometry and structure to the human form? Or was it simply a moment of whimsical creativity, a random idea that he felt compelled to formalize with a patent? We may never know the true story, and that uncertainty is part of the charm of this particular invention. What the blouse patent reveals is the sheer breadth of Einstein's curiosity. It shows a mind that was not confined to a single discipline. He was interested in how things worked, whether it was the universe, a refrigerator, or a piece of clothing. To him, a design problem was a design problem, and the challenge of creating a more functional, or perhaps more efficient garment, was not fundamentally different from designing a better pump. It required observation, an understanding of structure, and a novel idea for improvement. The blouse patent is a testament to a mind that was constantly observing, analyzing, and looking for new patterns and better solutions in every aspect of the world. While the Einstein Blouse never graced the runways of Paris or the department stores of New York, it serves as a powerful symbol. It reminds us that creativity is not a limited resource that can only be applied to one field. The same inventive spark that can revolutionize science can also find expression in art, music, or even fashion. The blouse patent humanizes the mythical figure of Einstein, showing us a man with a playful, unpredictable, and endlessly curious intellect. It's a wonderful reminder that even the greatest minds have their little mysteries, their unexpected detours that make their story all the more compelling and relatable. To truly understand Einstein the inventor, we must travel back to the beginning of his career, long before he was a global icon. From 1902 to 1909, a young Albert Einstein worked as a patent examiner at the Swiss Federal Office for Intellectual Property in Bern. This was no mere day job to pay the bills. It was a formative experience that profoundly shaped his way of thinking. Every day, he was presented with the dreams and ambitions of other inventors, laid out in the form of blueprints and technical descriptions. His job was to dissect these ideas, to peer into their mechanical hearts, and determine if they were truly new, and if they would actually work. This work trained him to think with ruthless clarity and practicality. He had to quickly grasp complex mechanical and electrical systems, identify their core principles, and spot potential flaws. He became an expert at visualizing how gears would turn, how electricity would flow, and how different components would interact. This daily exercise in applied physics was the perfect training ground for a budding theoretical physicist. It forced him to ground abstract principles in tangible reality. He learned to ask the most important question for any invention: is this idea sound, and does it obey the laws of physics? This critical lens would later serve him well in his own theoretical work. It was during this period, in 1905, that Einstein experienced his annus mirabilis, or miracle year. While working his full-time job at the patent office, he published 4 groundbreaking papers that would forever change the course of science. These papers introduced the world to the photoelectric effect, explained Brownian motion, laid out the theory of special relativity, and unveiled the mass-energy equivalence equation, E equals mc squared. It's an almost unbelievable feat of intellectual multitasking. His mind was operating on 2 parallel tracks, one immersed in the practical realities of patent applications, the other soaring through the highest realms of theoretical physics. This dual existence was not a coincidence. The 2 worlds fed each other. His work evaluating inventions gave him a unique insight into the nature of time, simultaneity, and the transmission of signals, concepts that were central to his theory of relativity. He was constantly thinking about synchronizing clocks, a common problem in patent applications for train systems and telegraphs. This practical grounding gave his theoretical explorations a concrete foundation. The patent office wasn't a distraction from his real work. It was an essential part of his secret universe, the hidden laboratory where he honed the very intellectual tools he would use to decode the cosmos. With so many clever ideas and official patents, a natural question arises. Why aren't we all using Einstein-branded appliances today? Why did these ingenious inventions fade into obscurity? The answer is not a single simple one. Instead, it's a combination of bad timing, fierce competition, and the relentless pace of technological change. Einstein's inventions were like brilliant solo performances that were drowned out by the roar of a full orchestra. They were elegant, but the world often chooses solutions that are simpler, cheaper, and easier to manufacture on a massive scale, even if they are less scientifically refined. Consider the Einstein-Szilard refrigerator. It was a masterpiece of physics, but it was also complex and noisy. At the very same time, the chemical industry delivered Freon, a good enough solution that was far easier to implement. The entire manufacturing infrastructure for refrigerators could continue with minimal changes. The market will almost always favor an incremental improvement over a radical redesign, especially when the former is cheaper. The refrigerator's story is a classic example of a brilliant invention being outmaneuvered by a more commercially viable competitor. It wasn't that Einstein's idea was bad, it was that another, simpler idea got there first. The historical context of the era also played a huge role. The 1930s and 1940s were a time of immense global turmoil. The Great Depression crippled economies worldwide, making it incredibly difficult to secure funding for new, unproven technologies. Investors were risk-averse, and consumers had little money for expensive new gadgets. This was followed by the rise of Nazism in Germany, which forced Einstein, a prominent Jewish intellectual, to flee to the United States in 1933. The ensuing chaos of World War II shifted the entire focus of global research and development towards military applications, leaving little room for perfecting new cameras or hearing aids. Ultimately, Einstein's primary passion was always theoretical physics. His inventions, while brilliant, were often side projects born of curiosity or compassion. He didn't have the single-minded drive of an entrepreneur like Thomas Edison, whose main goal was to commercialize inventions and build a business empire. Einstein was driven by the puzzle itself. Once he had solved the intellectual challenge and captured the idea in a patent, his interest often moved on to the next problem, the next cosmic question. He was a pioneer of ideas, but he was not a captain of industry. His legacy wasn't destined to be in our kitchens, but in our understanding of the stars. So, what is the ultimate legacy of Einstein's hidden inventions? They may not have revolutionized our homes or our wardrobes, but they have revolutionized our understanding of Einstein himself. They paint a richer, more complete portrait of a man who was not just an abstract thinker, but a deeply engaged and compassionate human being. These patents and prototypes reveal a mind that found joy and purpose in solving problems at every scale, from the cosmic to the commonplace. They show us that the same spark of curiosity that led him to unravel the mysteries of gravity also drove him to build a safer refrigerator for a family he'd never met. This inventive spirit provides a powerful lesson for all of us. It teaches us that there should be no barrier between different forms of knowledge. Science, engineering, art, and design are not separate islands. They are interconnected parts of the same continent of human creativity. Einstein's work reminds us that the principles of physics can be found in a camera, the laws of thermodynamics in a kitchen, and the beauty of geometry in a piece of clothing. He saw the world as a unified whole, where a deep understanding of fundamental principles could unlock solutions to any problem, big or small. His life's work encourages us to look for these connections in our own world. Furthermore, his story is a testament to the power of collaboration. Einstein rarely worked alone on these inventions. he partnered with Leo Szilard, Gustav Bucke, and Rudolf Goldschmidt, combining his theoretical genius with their practical engineering expertise. This fusion of different skills and perspectives is often where true innovation happens. It's a model for progress that is more relevant today than ever before, as the world's biggest challenges require us to bring together experts from countless different fields. Einstein knew that even the greatest mind can be made greater through partnership and shared purpose. In the end, Einstein's journey as an inventor is not a story of commercial failure, but a story of intellectual triumph. It is the story of a mind so vast and so restless that it could not be contained by a single discipline. He was and remains a guiding star, not just for scientists, but for anyone who has ever looked at the world and thought, there has to be a better way. His patents are the echoes of that thought, the tangible proof of a lifelong quest driven by an insatiable, compassionate, and enduring spark of curiosity. And that spark continues to light our way, inspiring us to keep asking questions, to keep tinkering, and to never stop trying to build a better world.